mortality rates dropped 10 to 20-fold, demonstrating that some diseases can be prevented or significantly reduced by this simple hygienic practice. Dr. Simmelweis became the first person to patent the hand-washing practice in medical clinics.
The Gambia government's resolve to saving the lives of children has been a challenging one, but according to the Deputy Director of Health Services, Adama Demba, government, he says, will not relent in their efforts to make the nation fit for all children.
The journey that government had started almost 3 years ago, since the declaration of Global Hand Washing Day in 2008 by the UN General Assembly, has been able to map out a route to reach a destination whereby the challenge of poor hygiene, which threatens the gains made in saving children in this country, is addressed. And not only being addressed, but addressed in a smart, effective and inclusive way. And I am happy to announce that the Gambia was one of the first countries to mark the Global Hand Washing Day.
The celebration also featured performances from school children and women depicting the importance of hand washing with soap. The commemoration of Global Hand Washing Day is aimed at raising awareness on the dangers of eating with contaminated hands and its impacts.
As you all know, hand washing may be a simple task, but it has to be effective. This effectiveness of hand washing can only be achieved through the use of soap and water. Studies have shown that 60 to 70% of child deaths are attributed to diarrhea-related illnesses that are caused by lack of the most basic practice, which is washing hands using soap and water at critical times. And these are after using the toilet, before preparing food, and after attending to a child who passed through.
The message was simple. Hand washing should be a social norm. It is not the lack of soap that is usually the problem. The vast majority of households have soaps available easily, but this is often intended for purposes other than hand washing. The call now is for a change in attitude to save lives, particularly those of children. For Grts News, I am Fatou Jassi.
You can also follow that story and other Grts programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor Grts Radio Live. We'll go for a short break. The news continues right after. Welcome back. After months on the run, Libya's longtime leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, and possibly 2 of his sons have been killed. Unconfirmed reports from the Arab satellite channel Al Arabiya has reported that the National Transitional Council plans to bury Colonel Gaddafi at a secret location in Libya. The culmination of Thursday's remarkable events in Libya began when the so-called Arab Spring spread to cities across the country. Let's go back in time now to see how the Libyan revolution that led to Gaddafi's downfall actually started.
The Arab Spring had spread to Libya. A violent crackdown on demonstrators protesting the arrest of a human rights activist. Within days, clashes had erupted across the country. And as images of the violence made their way onto the internet, the Gaddafi family used state television to dismiss reports that they were losing control.
Today, Tripoli is quiet. Yesterday, Tripoli was quiet. Schools are open, banks are open, people are out. Normally, life is normal here.
The Western world saw it differently.
It is U.S. policy that Gaddafi needs to go.
By the end of February, sanctions were imposed and Colonel Gaddafi's assets frozen. The first attacks on Libya came on March the 19th. French, British and American forces fired more than 110 missiles at Libyan military assets. Days later, NATO took over the mission and on April the 30th launched a missile attack that killed Gaddafi's youngest son and 3 of his grandchildren. The Libyan leader's base of support began to crumble amid political defections and increasing international support for the rebels' transitional council. By late June, the International Criminal Court had issued a warrant for the arrest of Gaddafi for crimes against humanity. Remaining defiant, on August the 15th, Gaddafi made a speech urging Libyans to fight opposition forces.
The end of colonization is soon. The end of the rats is also soon.
But the rebels advanced on Tripoli.
Today is free Tripoli, not Gaddafi. Gaddafi died.
And a week later, stormed his compound to find it abandoned. The capital had fallen, and the new interim government took hold. But the battle was not yet won.
It is true that our youth led this revolution, and they were its fuel, and they were responsible for it up till now in fighting fronts, and the Libyans won't forget this achievement done by the youth who are still paying respects to the martyrs among them in this blessed night. We wish their injured a fast recovery, and to our committed rebels, the glorious victory.
Throughout September, they advanced on Gaddafi's remaining 3 strongholds, Sabha, Bani Walid, and finally, the deposed leader's hometown of Sirte. This week marking the endgame as the last of Gaddafi's loyalists were overthrown.
Gaddafi is known for his bizarre dress and his shameless embrace of terrorism. In a meeting built on curiosity and a feared presence, CNN's Jonathan Mann sat down with Colonel Gaddafi in 2006, and the former Libyan leader left quite an impression.
For an interview in a large tent in Tripoli, a then quiet port city where just about every billboard and sign was painted with his picture. Ronald Reagan once called him a mad dog, and Gaddafi's behavior was indeed particular. He was famous for his flamboyant dress, his legion of female bodyguards, and his bizarre fixations, such as a plan to abolish Switzerland. In person, he seemed lethargic. His eyes, even behind sunglasses, seemed unfocused. His answers through a translator seemed rambling. We never saw the female bodyguards, and his clothing was relatively low-key, a camouflage shirt festooned with maps of Africa. But that fly whisk never stopped flying. Libya today is in transition. Its revolution has triumphed, and its people are demanding democracy. But when I brought up democracy, he threatened to sue me for slander.
If you or somebody else says Libya is not a democracy, he told us, then it would be considered an insult, and maybe we could go to court to redeem honor from that insult.
Back then, Libya was a rogue state trying to redeem itself. It had surrendered its most dangerous weapons to the West. It was trying to open its economy to the world. Its leader was the wild card, the unpredictable element. Now he's gone, and Libya's future is the big unknown.
And before we end this edition of the news, a recap of our headline-making stories. The Chamber of Commerce of the Gambia and the Senegalese region of Casamance has sealed a trade and investment agreement. Stakeholders seeking to give the Gambia's veterinary services a shot in the arm has been meeting to discuss a study commissioned by the FAO. Youth and Sports Ministry officials touring the farms cultivated by youth of the country has described the venture as a success, and unconfirmed reports are speaking of the possible killing of 2 of Muammar Gaddafi's sons as after Gaddafi himself died in Sirte. And we thank you for following this story. You can also follow this story on the GRTS programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor GRTS Radio Live. That brings us to the end of this edition of the news. Thanks for keeping us company, and do enjoy the rest of our programs.